National Assembly has finally passed the 2025 Appropriation Bill. 260 members of Parliament voted in favour of the bill, 88 against it, parties like the MK Party, EFF and ATM rejecting it outright. The bill authorises the spending of government funds through different departments. The Democratic Alliance, which previously threatened to oppose it, changed their minds after calling for the axing of some ministers. Joining us is Dr. Mmusi Maimane, chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Appropriations. I just have to deliberate. I don't know how many congratulations you've got already, Mmusi, but congratulations on your pass and on graduating and getting your doctorate. So I want you to just enjoy that moment briefly before we get into the meat of the matter.
No, thank you very much. And like any academic work, you know, there's a sense of responsibility that comes with it. So now regardless of the congratulations, I do feel a sense of weight behind. Now I've got to make sure at least another set of young South Africans can also get through. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. All
right. So I just want to start with, so this appropriation bill passing by a comfortable majority. What, in your view, does this say about the current balance of power inside the GNU? What does it reveal about how decisions are being made?
I think just before we get there, Iman, I want to, just having listened in on the show and the family before, part of why we do budgets is so that we can fight for justice for families like that. And I want to, on this, just offer any support we can give to the family. As a member of parliament, whatever the state's response needs to be, must be at the highest. And I want to say up front that I'm willing to assist in whichever way you can. And if just through your channel, you can connect us with the family, will help. On the second, which is the budget itself, it says much about the GNU that for many instances, when you want to debate a budget, you must debate rands and cents. You must debate the issues that sit within the budget. Instead, what the GNU has reduced the budget-making process is a fight about politics. And so in this instance, it became about which leader, it depends about which power. And it's clear that, in fact, political brinkmanship or the lack of decisive plan by government will always hold South Africans hostage. Because in essence, had the bill not passed, today our conversation would be, how do departments survive on 10% allocation? And so what I would urge is that what the GNU needs is, rather than it being about politics, it needs to spend this time articulating a plan, making sure that plan is funded, make sure reforms take place to achieve that plan, so that next year we don't have this debacle. Because I think really for us to be considering a budget this late in the year, so soon before the next financial year, really puts South Africans at risk.
I mean, we know that the road to here, Mmusi, has been anything but smooth. There's been political bargaining, sharp opposition. There have been, shifting alliances. So we've seen the fault lines very clearly within the GNU. Did the DA's last-minute support after President Ramaphosa dismissed Minister Nkabani set a precedent, a positive or negative precedent for political horse trading in budgeting processes?
Yeah, I think part of the danger that it does set, in fact, perhaps maybe in a negative way, is that it would seem as though it can be able to create an ability where it can pick and choose which minister it wants to go. And fair enough, this is in compensation for the axing of Andrew Whitfield. And so naturally, it creates a space where you can pick one of your own has gone, now one of our own must go. And if that becomes the dialogue in South Africa, then, as I said earlier, it becomes politics over people. And I think that President Ramaphosa in this instance needs to be able to arrest the situation. And as I urge, that let there be a plan that even whether you are in opposition or whether you are in the GNU, you've got something to hold the government against, accountable to. Otherwise, we are really going to be at the whim of politicians, and then next year is going to create the same movie as I've highlighted.
But isn't it a good thing getting people out, who have created controversy, who have serious questions to answer about accountability and transparency? I mean, the House is still sitting trying to get answers from the now axed minister.
There are mechanisms to be able to achieve that. You don't have to hold the people of South Africa ransom. The mechanism here is to actually fight it, A, within cabinet, and B, if you want to move motions of censure either against the president or the executive, that is well within the DA's power or any other political party. There are mechanisms that are set up particularly to deal with the politics of the issue. The GNU's own clearinghouse needs to be able to meet more regularly, to be able to deal with political appointments, etc. And ultimately, and I think this is perhaps maybe the role of the leader of government business in Deputy President Paul Mashatile, that work must be done. What I'm really trying to say outright is let's separate the politics in this instance from putting South Africans at risk. Because what they do is they mask some of the real issues that sit within this budget. For example, as I sit here today, we're fighting to make sure 200,000 South Africans who, for issues of verifications and capacity in social development, need to get their social grants. Now, that's a real issue that doesn't get discussed because we're busy fighting about who and what. Where there are ministers who are not doing their jobs or failing, or as in Kaban, Parliament has mechanisms to remove them, and the president has the power to do so. And I'm saying use those powers, use that brinkmanship. But when we deal with the budget, let's get into the nuts and bolts of what's needed, because we need growth, we need many other things, rather than just discussing the politics of the issue. They get overshadowed by the politics.
So some parties like the EFF and the MKP, Musi, voted against the bill, calling it austerity dressed as reform. I mean, what of those concerns that they are raising resonate for a party like BOSA? Or do you believe that this budget can realistically address our socioeconomic challenges?
This budget is far from perfect. The reality of South Africa is that for every 1 rand that's spent, obviously 22 cents of it goes towards debt, 61, about 38 cents of it goes to cost of employees, and 60 cents of it, which moves above the 1 rand, is spent on social wage. So this is not a growth budget by any matter of means, because to achieve growth, you need to invest in other things, in infrastructure, to which part of what underlies this budget is to put R1 trillion in infrastructure growth over the medium term. So some of the issues that are being raised is obviously, as we look at local government is on the verge of collapse. Johannesburg, many other metros are facing great difficulty. So we need to answer the question, the allocation to local government. Is it still sensible to say local municipalities can raise 90% of their revenue and 10% be given by the state? I don't think that thesis holds. So we need to reform that. We need to think harder. When we think about policing, for example, 81% of the police budget is actually on cost of employees, which means, in essence, the police end up without new vehicles or any of the issues that they need. But because it's not perfect, does not mean that it must then be rejected outright. Because in essence, there'll never be a fully funded budget until we begin to deal with the growth issues. So to me, I think it's a step in the right direction. I think we need to work harder in the medium term. So in the next year and the year thereafter, to say, how do we redirect some spending priorities so that we can achieve the growth, so that there's better revenue, and ultimately end up with a balanced budget rather than a budget that increases the deficit as we see in this one. So there are issues that resonate, and as a party, we've taken those into cognizance. But the fight is, let's reform, and that's why the process needs to be smoother so that we can get into the appropriate amendments.
All right, Dr. Musi Maimane, thanks for talking to us.